right, Shalom. I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth, and double salutations to all you Akim out there laboring, the house of David, the elect, that's pushing this word with all truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Shalom to you, brothers, and shalom to the elect. I'm back with another quick lesson through the Holy Spirit, the Rakakwadash. And I found this video in the archives. Okay, this video is probably like around 8 to 9 years ago, dealing with the Israelite woman, specifically Eve, the so-called black woman, and our black feminism. Okay, and Alex Jones, Alex Skull and Bones Jones, he points out how the black woman has been programmed from the beginning by the serpent against the Israelite man, and was set up to destroy her family and communities. So I wanted to look at the spiritual parallels of our mindset then and now. Okay, because remember, she bought into the black feminism, the hate the black man rhetoric, right? So back in this article again, black feminism, the CIA, and Gloria Steinem, which was a small hat, a JOO. Okay, straight to the point. Bottom line, the so-called black feminist movement was created and manipulated by the CIA from the very beginning. The only difference between black revolutionaries and black feminists on this issue is that black revolutionaries know they were infiltrated and manipulated, but black feminists are still unwilling to admit that they were infiltrated and manipulated, largely because they are highly invested in the hateful brand of black feminism, meaning she's not going to give it up, right? As a result, the quote hate black men movement has become more than just a political point of view. It is now a central part of the culture of black women, and we see that all over the internet. Okay? And this fact has led to the destruction of the black revolution and the complete distortion of black relationships. And the CIA had a direct hand in creating this situation. And you know what's crazy? There's a trend on the internet saying that the CIA won. You got all these jakes going into like the past atrocities and crimes that these devils have committed against our people, and how they programmed us, to pretty much hate each other, man. So I thought that was pretty spiritual too, right? But getting into this video here, right?
And I ask you to look in the mirror and ask yourselves, what are you doing in this time of great challenge? To break down how they had to get women to see men as the enemy. And again, she went on to say, we'll use blacks because they're the weakest group, they're the poorest group, they're the most institutionalized group. At that time, just being 70 years or so out of slavery in the 1860s. She said, what we'll do is just like we had the old system of the women were brought into the house. You're getting the big secret of feminism right now. Just like the house slave was always a woman and the men were kept out in the barn and weren't allowed to read or write, we're going to set women up as the minders of society again. There's actually Roman handbooks on this from 2,000 years ago.
You see? Like the scriptures say, nothing new under the sun. Okay, we see the same tactic being used today. All right, this is a strategy or philosophy of Rome to set up the slave woman over the slave man. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 31, verse 22, and it reads, it says, how long wilt thou go about, O thou backsliding daughter? For the Lord Yahweh Shai have created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man. You see, so the Israelite woman has adopted this same mindset today through feminism, women's rights, where she rules over the man through this Babylonian system. Okay, just like the Lord said, this is a new thing in the earth where the woman will be set over the man. All right, but like Alex Jones was talking about, this philosophy or this system goes back to Rome. All right?
The most institutionalized group, at that time just being 70 years or so out of slavery in the 1860s, she said, what we'll do is just like we had the old system of the women were brought into the house. You're getting the big secret of feminism right now. Just like the house slave was always a woman and the men were kept out in the barn and weren't allowed to read or write, we're going to set women up as the minders of society again. There's actually Roman handbooks on this from 2,000 years ago where they talk about, with white slaves at that time, mainly from Western Europe, you bring in the slaves, you kill a couple of the men in front of the women, you even kill some of the kids, and you tell the women, it's your job to keep these men in line or we're going to kill all of you. And they found that women, believing they were protecting people, would become incredible oppressors and tattletales over the men. And then within a few generations, they started enjoying the oppression and didn't even do it to, quote, protect the men. And I was reading about how they retranslated those Roman documents from Latin into French and then into English by the 1820s or so in the sugarcane plantations. I'm giving you history here. Heavy truth, folks. The sugarcane plantations in the Caribbean, they would bring a ship of slaves in. Already half of them on average from Africa would have died in the trip over because they didn't really feed them from Africa. And they'd get them off the coffin ship and then they would kill the most well-spoken, obvious leader, just from body language and things, of the blacks that was alive in front of the women. They'd beat their brains out or they would hang them. And they'd tell the women, we're going to kill all your male children if you don't keep everybody in line. Is that understood? And they found the women would do whatever they were told. So that's where you get the mammy in all the Three Stooges movies and stuff, bossing the black guys around, and in all the old movies that are still, representing what really happened in history, where the black woman is in charge, and she's got the big, big mammy outfit on, Aunt Jemima, and she's in there telling those black men, you do what you're told. And
now, real quick, I was looking that up. All right. This is from Jim Crow Museum.ferris.edu. The mammy caricature, right? This is what he was talking about. So it says, mammy is the most well-known and enduring racial caricature of African American women. The Jim Crow Museum at Ferris State University has more than 100 items with a mammy image, including ashtrays, souvenirs, postcards, fishing lures, detergent, artistic prints, toys, candles, and kitchenware. This article examines real mammies, fictional mammies, and commercial mammies. So it says real mammies. It says from slavery through the Jim Crow era, the mammy image served the political, social, and economic interest of white America. All right, and it's the same today. It says the mammy image served the political, social, and economic interest of mainstream white America. During slavery, the mammy caricature was posited as proof that black people, in this case black women, were contented, even happy at being enslaved. See that? And it's the same today. Okay, what changed? Okay, she's happy to be in this system because, again, this Babylonian system gives her the power, man. All right, it gives her the so-called freedom to do what she want to do, to reign over her men. All right, to continue to destroy her family and communities. Okay, again, nothing new under the sun. It says, in this case, black women were contented, even happy at being enslaved. Her wide grin, hearty laughter, and loyal servitude were offered as evidence of the supposed humanity of the institution of slavery. This was the mammy caricature, and like all caricatures, it contained a little truth surrounded by a larger lie. The caricature portrayed an obese, coarse, maternal figure. She had great love for her white family, right? And this is all, like I said, this is all spiritual. Look at the spiritual parallels from then and now. All right, how she acts, how she feels about her slave master, her daddy. You know, it says she had great love for her white family, but often treated her own family with disdain. Although she had children, sometimes many, she was completely desexualized. She, quote, belonged to the white family, though it was rarely stated. Unlike Sambo, she was a faithful worker. She had no black friends. The white family was her entire world. This is heavy. Obviously, the mammy caricature was more myth than actual accurate portrayal. Right now, I want to get this real quick, where it talked about, she was in love with her white family, but often treated her own family with disdain. And it's still like that now. Going back to the curses. Deuteronomy 28, verse 54. And it reads, it says, so that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eyes shall be evil toward his brother, and toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave. Right? This is why, as I brought out before, going back to the curses dealing with the man leaving the house, all right, either being dead or in jail, all right, or the mom ran the man out the house, all right. The point, verse 56, Deuteronomy 28, verse 56, it says, the tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground, for the delicateness and tenderness, her eye should be evil toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter. See, that's so again, how she was programmed, all right, it's still the effects are still here today. All right, how she's evil towards her children. She don't really give a damn about her kids. Most of the kids that are born in this society today are for a check. Child support, government assistance. All right, so she still has that disdain for her kids today and her husband today. All right, that feminism, as we brought out in the beginning. All right, the hate the black man rhetoric. You see what I'm saying? Those effects are still lingering on today. All right, let's read a little bit more. It says, Catherine Clinton, 1982, a historian, claimed that real antebellum mammies were rare. It says records do acknowledge the presence of enslaved females who served as the right hand, quote unquote, of plantation mistresses. Yet documents from the planter class during the first 50 years following the American Revolution reveal only a handful of such examples. Not until the emancipation did black women run white households or occupy any significant number of the special positions ascribed to them in folklore fiction, right? But they have the proof out there of that the mammy, right? The mistress, when the slave master died, she put the yoke harder on the Jake man. Right? She was even harder than the damn slave master when she took over the plantation. It says the mammy was created by white Southerners to redeem the relationship between black women and white men within the enslavement society in response to the anti-slavery attack from the North during the antebellum period. It says in the primary records before Civil War, hard evidence for its existence simply does not appear, right? But we know this to be true. Okay? Let's see if there's any more. It says, let's jump down. It says abolitionists claim that one of the many brutal aspects of slavery was that slave owners sexually exploited their enslaved females, especially light-skinned ones, who approximated the mainstream definition of sexual attractiveness. Now, does this not play on today? All right, what you see in the media and the videos, all right, the so-called mulatto woman, the light-skinned woman being the standard of sexuality for the black woman and all that. It's the same thing today. She's hypersexualized. She's twerking all over the goddamn place, spreading her ass all over the camera and videos. It's the same. It's the same spirit. It's the same mindset, man. So there's no way you can say that it's not true. It says especially light-skinned ones who approximated the mainstream definition of female sexual attractiveness. The mammy caricature was deliberately constructed to suggest ugliness. Mammy was portrayed as dark-skinned, often pitch black, in a society that regarded black skin as ugly and tainted. She was obese, sometimes morbidly overweight. Now, again, do we not see that today? All right, these fat-ass black women parading themselves around, all right, dressing inappropriately, showing their body with no type of shame. And that's why, going back to that image, where's that at? Let me pull it up real quick. It was the, what was it called? Black fatigue. Right? I did the lesson on it. Right? And they put that image up. I believe it was in, I think it might have been New York, where they put the, the big black quiche up there. All right? With the braids and the attitude, man. You see? All this goes back from the beginning. Right? It says, let's read some more. It says, Mammy was portrayed as dark-skinned, often pitch black, in a society that regarded black skin as ugly, tainted. She was obese, sometimes morbidly overweight. Moreover, she was often portrayed as old or at least middle-aged. The intent was to desexualize Mammy. The implicit assumption was this: no reasonable white man would choose a fat, elderly black woman instead of the idealized white woman. The black Mammy was portrayed as lacking all sexual and sensual qualities. This de-eroticism of Mammy meant that the white wife, and by extension, the white family, was safe. Let's read a little bit more. All right? Because this is all spiritual, man. It says the sexual exploitation of black women by white men was unfortunately common during the antebellum period, right? This is why we have this photo here, all right? Because remember, she was happy of being enslaved, right? It says the sexual exploitation of black women by white men was unfortunately common during the antebellum period. And this was true irrespective of the economic relationship involved. In other words, black women were sexually exploited by rich white people, middle-class white people, and poor white people. Sexual relations between black and white people, whether consensual or grapes, were taboo, yet they occurred often, all right, and it's still to this day. All black women and girls, regardless of their physical appearances, were vulnerable to being sexually assaulted by white men. The mammy caricature tells many lies. In this case, the lie is that white men did not find black women sexually desirable. All right, we'll read this last point and get back to the video. All right, but it says the mammy caricature implied that black women were only fit to be domestic workers. Thus, the stereotype became rationalization for economic discrimination. During the Jim Crow period, approximately 1877 to 1966, America's race-based, race-segregated job economy limited most black people to menial, low-paying, low-status jobs. Black women found themselves forced into one job category, house servant. Joanne Gibson Robinson, 1987, a biographer of the civil rights movement, described the limited opportunities for black women in the 1950s, all right? And the rest you can read on your own, all right? But let's get back to the point here, all right? Because everything, again, is spiritual.
Africa would have died in the trip over because they didn't really feed them from Africa. And they'd get them off the coffin ship, and then they would kill the most well-spoken, obvious leader, just from body language and things, of the blacks that was alive in front of the women. They'd beat their brains out, or they would hang them. And they'd tell the women, we're going to kill all your male children if you don't keep everybody in line. Is that understood? And they found the women would do whatever they were told. So that's where you get the mammy in all the Three Stooges movies and stuff, bossing the black guys around, and in all the old movies that are still, representing what really happened in history, where the black woman is in charge, and she's got the big mammy outfit on, Aunt Jemima, and she's in there telling those black men, you do what you're told. In fact, in this culture, got so dominant that my father, when he would pick cotton, and he did pick cotton, even though he came from a middle-class family, he was sent out to pick cotton, that he would go out and pick cotton on adjacent farms, and that they had groups of black people out there picking the cotton. And do you know who the bosses were? Giant, powerful black women. And
he said giant, powerful black woman, man. Oh man, this dude is hilarious, right? But going back to what we read in the caricature, the mammy caricature. All right, this is a real thing, man, and that same spirit is here today.
They were even bossing the poor whites around. Now that's what my dad grew up.
And I'm thinking about that spirit of the so-called black woman's attitude and how she is. It all goes back to this, man.
In East Texas, and my dad's only 63 years old, okay? My dad grew up with a black woman foreman telling the poor whites what to do. Now that is that culture, ladies and gentlemen. And I've read in the history diaries about breeding programs in this country where they would actually single out the most aggressive, largest black women. This goes back 200 years. You can look this up. This is the history you're not supposed to know, to be the dominant people. So that's all Katy Perry and all this is. That's what feminism is. In fact, there's Margaret Sanger to the KKK. Show them that. That's powerful. In fact, we'll give people a full screen of that. I'm begging you, that's a real photo, to look into this now. When your wife comes home and dresses you down and tells you she's the boss, she's reading government propaganda developed in Rome 2,000 years ago to make women the slave masters. They call them the house slaves. They have an obnoxious term when it's blacks.
You see? Man, this is the devices of the wicked, right? This is Isaiah 32, verse 7, and it reads, it says, the instrument of the churl are evil. He deviseth wicked devices to destroy the poor with lying words. All right, the poor is you Israelites. All right, so-called Negro, Latino, Native Americans, and Hispanics. This is part of Esau's wicked devices, man. This strategy from Rome. All right, to make the slave woman pretty much the head of the house, to rule over the man. All right, which enabled her to destroy her family and communities, man, as we see it today. It says, the instrument also of the churl are evil. He deviseth wicked devices to destroy the poor with lying words, even when the needy speaketh right. So this is all part of that, man. Okay? All these things that we see happening today all have an origin. You see? So like I said, just kind of analyzing those spiritual parallels of our mindset then and now. Okay? What's changed? All right. That's why you see, again, as he was talking about these big, big ass black women, you see them running rampant today with their attitudes. They can't be told anything. All right. No structure. Okay. It's the same thing. Right.
House, what's. And this is the history you're not supposed to know, to be the dominant people. So that's all Katy Perry and all this is. That's what feminism is. In fact, there's Margaret Sanger to the KKK. Show them that. That's powerful. In fact, we'll give people a full screen of that. I'm begging you, that's a real photo, to look into this now. When your wife comes home and dresses you down and tells you she's the boss, she's reading government propaganda developed in Rome 2,000 years ago to make women the slave masters. They call them the house slaves. They have an obnoxious term when it's blacks. The house, you-know-whats. And so let me expand on this, giving you the deep truth here. That's why in the 60s, blacks were demanding their liberty, because they'd gone to war in World War II. They had their own communities, their own wealth. Illegitimacy was much lower than it is now. Crime rates much lower. And they said, Margaret Sanger and others had developed the program. They said, what we'll do is we'll get them on welfare, and we'll tell them, you can't have a man in the house, he'll give you money. And we'll reinstitute the house slave model. And that's what they've created now. And
that's what they created, and that's what we see today, right?
God damn, God bless this man. Somebody had to say it.
So we have spent $30 trillion on the social welfare system since 1965. Black people are poorer, and the single motherhood went from 25% to now 75 to 80%. So the more money we've spent on black America, the less fathers we have, because black women divorced black men and married the government.
Boom. Hey, if you don't want to listen to us, and let Esau tell you, right? And that's why, again, as I always bring out in these lessons, all right, the so-called black woman has to take accountability, all right? She got to pay up, all right? She has her role in this story too. Micah 7:10, then she that is my enemy shall see it, right? Then she that is my enemy shall see it. Speaking about the wicked Israelite woman, all right? This applies to the wicked two-third Israelite woman, all right, that wants to, prolong America, that doesn't want to drop this black feminism bullshit. All right, this is what this scripture is talking about, man. All right, because you women are getting ready to fall hard. Micah 7:10, then she that is my enemy shall see it, and shame shall cover her. Right, and hearing this information, shame should cover you women. And shame should cover her, which said unto me, where is the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushua, thy power? My eyes shall behold her. Now shall she be trodden down as the mire in the street. So she's getting ready to get her reward, man. All right, which is destruction. This is why right now, as the videos have been going out, these women have been losing jobs. Everything is becoming, too expensive to live. They're complaining on the internet, and you haven't seen nothing yet, man. Wait till Jacob's trouble. Wait till society collapses. Wait till they push this MOTB system. Then you're going to see real trouble. Right?
Black men are told, just like white men, everybody else, to be lethargic, don't work, be a gangster, just get women pregnant all day, that you're winning when you do that, when you don't take care of your kids. This is now being exported back where it came from, with German and Gaulish slaves in Rome 2,000 years ago. Started out with whites, but this was done to whites. And now it's being done to blacks, and now they've beta tested it on blacks, and they're rolling it out. So Margaret Sanger, Gloria Steinem, the idiot Katy Perry doesn't know what she's doing. She's just paid by the Marines to do this, so does it. I mean, she's obviously doesn't have, two brain cells rubbed together. I mean, just look at her eyes. She's got one-way eyes. But when you look at the snake eyes of a Margaret Sanger or the devil eyes of a Gloria Steinem, they know how to run savage ops on our families. And they've devastated things. Blacks were, depending on what area, 30% illegitimate, 40% illegitimate. When you are illegitimate, that means you're 3 to 4 times more likely to be in prison or involved in crime. Now blacks are 92% illegitimate. Whites are 50% illegitimate now. Hispanics are about the same number as whites. And you can just see it. Society totally falling apart, totally crumbling. And so I just want to right now say to Gloria Steinem and to the Ku Klux Klan and to Margaret Sanger there with the Klan, who the liberals worship, I want to say you've done a great job. You have really screwed people up. And of course, they've also got the liberals who aren't really liberals, that are Klan members. They've got them doing a great job, where blacks get all upset when the media talks about Trayvon Martin and some questionable event and get everybody at each other's throats. So the liberals can pose as their saviors while they're busy killing 52% of black folks before they're born. You can't get black folks excited about that because the media and Wolf Blitzer didn't say so. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've gone deeply now into the secrets of what's going on with Katy Perry. Part of me, that disgusting, fetid, anti-human.
Yeah, so that's pretty much the points that I wanted to to make from that this video clip here. But again, like Jake has been saying online, the feds, the CIA, they won, man. Right? These were all the devices, of the wicked. Let me get that too. All right, for the destruction of the Israelite household, man. And again, the so-called black woman has to take her responsibility as well. Isaiah, just thinking out loud, Isaiah 3 and 12, right? Isaiah 3 and 12, it says, as for my people, children are their oppressors and women rule over them. See? O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to error and destroy the way of thy paths. And again, all right, it just, land backing off this information here. All right, the Israelite woman, all right, Eve, the so-called black woman, has a hand in the destruction of her family and people, man. As we see it today on a high level, man. Right? But again, it's all the devices of the serpent, these Edomites, man, the devil. Right? Psalm 94. Just thinking about that too. Psalm 94 verse 5, it says, they break in pieces thy people, O Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushai, and afflict thy heritage, man. And this is what he's done through these different philosophies, man. Okay? These different agendas. The Planned Parenthood, the black feminism. Okay? Fucking rap music, man. This toxic black culture that's promoted. He's destroyed our people, man. Verse 6, it says, they slay the widow and the stranger and murder the fatherless. All right? This is what these devils do. Yet they say the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushai, shall not see, neither shall the power of Jacob regard it. You see that? So they think that, that this stuff has, is going past the Lord. But the Lord hasn't forgot anything. As scriptures say, he requires which is past. Right? Ecclesiastes 3 and 15. Okay? Ecclesiastes 3 and 15, that which has been is now, and that which is to be have already been. And Yahweh Shem Yahushai require that which is past. So bottom line, all right, the serpent, the Edomite, and Eve, all right, are going to pay. You see? So that's pretty much the point, man. I just wanted to kind of, just go into that video, just play those heavy points that he was bringing out, and just link it up with the scriptures, man. But we'll leave it there. I pray that this quick lesson was edifying through the Holy Spirit. And shalom to the next one. Shalom.